Welcome back, everybody. This is the Built for Anything audio podcast. I'm your host, the voice of the voiceless, Hertz, coming to you live from Dallas, Texas. It's a beautiful Sunday morning, and I'm just excited to talk to you guys. Let's get right into it. I'm going to talk about the Yankees. I'm a native New Yorker. The Yankees lost Game 7 last night. And you know what? I'm not mad. I am not mad at all. Because the Yankees wasn't supposed to be there. They're about 3 years early from being in this position. And they were one game away from the World Series. How could I be mad? You got Aaron Judge, who's a rookie, who really showed what he's capable of doing. This team fought hard, to be a wild card and to get this deep in the postseason. I'm very, very proud of the Yankees. Obviously, it sucks to lose. You don't want to just get to the dance. You want to find the hottest girl in the room or the hottest guy, and you want to, connect. So I really wanted us to win the whole thing. And, but that's sports. The better team won. Obviously, the Houston had the better record. And so, it is what it is. But the saying, people, the enemy of my enemy is my friend. And with that said, go Dodgers. That should be a really good series. I always say sports is about storylines, and you want it to be intriguing beyond the gameplay. And, with the Dodgers going through damn near 2 decades of not getting to the World Series, for them to finally be there is a great thing. And then obviously, LA being such a huge market, that's always a good thing when they're doing well. And on the other hand, you have, the Houston Astros, who, we all know what happened with Hurricane Harvey and in Houston. I think it's just poetic that, they get to this point and, really gives the people there who are diehard fans something to cheer about. And so, I'll be watching. I'll definitely be watching. And it's a win-win. It's all good. But let's go on to the next thing. All right. Let's talk about Lonzo Ball. Yes, I know I'm about a day late. The game was Friday night. Yesterday, there was this Texas Veggie Fair going on here in Texas, in Dallas, and it was an all-day event, so I didn't get a chance to speak on it. But if you heard my last podcast, I really got on, not really him. I acknowledged his shortcomings, and he had a terrible game, but really the team. And I talked about the coaching staff, because I kept hearing all off season about defense, and this guy's a leader and that guy's a leader. And so I was definitely frustrated with their opening. But they're a young team. And one thing about Lonzo Ball, and his father says this, he's not going to have too many back-to-back bad games. And that's a good trait to have, because anybody can make a mistake, but it's learning from it and moving forward. And I feel like this is the maturation process for him. Lonzo Ball is under extreme pressure. Yes, a lot of it has to do with what his father has to say, but I'm not really upset with LeVar Ball stating and having faith in his son. If I had a son, I would want to instill those qualities in him. Even if in reality, And you see, here's the thing with reality. Reality is subjective. Your reality is not my reality, and my reality is not yours. But all that matters is, how do you feel about yourself? When you look in the mirror every morning, do you believe in you? Or are you waiting for some sort of outside validation? And I love the fact that he instills in all his sons that you're the best. You can do this. And he's writing checks that, yes, his son is going to have to cash. But so many people want to excoriate LeVar Ball for trying to build a brand and making these outlandish comments in the eyes of many. But listen, at the end of the day, his son is approaching the game like, I want to be the best and I want to win. And that's really what I love about him. You got a lot of guys in the game of basketball who just want to fill up stats for a number of reasons. And a lot of it has to do with them building a brand, because it's important for you to make an all-star game. You want that push so that way when you go towards advertisers, that's outside money. You got players today that'll make more money in advertising than they do in their individual contracts. So, of course, a lot of this has to do with building a brand. But not many players really care about winning. And this guy, at the end of games, he's upset when they don't win. He's talking team basketball, and all he cares about is the W. I honestly, he's the type of guy or the type of player who I think he'll be okay with 6 points and 13 assists, 10 rebounds. He's fine with that and the W. But obviously, this is the NBA. He has to be more aggressive in terms of looking for his shot. And that's what he did against the Phoenix Suns. He had a great showing. And he is the first player since LeBron James and Kevin Durant to average more than 25 points and more than 10 rebounds in a game, his rookie season. So he's going to set all kinds of records. I believe that, because he is your prototypical pass first point guard, and there's not many of those in this league anymore. A lot of them are shooting guards who masquerade as being point guards. So I really like the fact that he was able to bounce back, because they were killing him on Twitter. I mean, people saying he's a bust. Welcome to the big leagues. But he embraced it. And that's what I wanted to see. How are you going to deal with that pressure? Because not many people could deal with the pressure. He's 19. I want you to think about what you were doing at 19 years old. Okay? This kid is 19 years old. He has the weight of the world on his shoulder. He's playing in a big market. Every loss is going to be magnified. And at the same time, I will say every achievement is going to be magnified as well. But not many players can do or withstand this pressure. So I really want to see how he matures throughout the season. He's going to have different matchups. But I feel like he's someone who he can be a real problem for other point guards. Because I always said from day one, his size. This guy is, 6'9". He has a handle. Obviously, the shot is a little shaky. He made a lot of it in college, but obviously he has to adjust to the pace of the NBA. But he's not going to be a pushover. He's not a skinny guy coming into the league. He's gaining size. So I'm really intrigued in what he's going to become really in year 2, year 3. But he's changing the culture, and the guys around him are rallying. And it's about being a leader. And I don't think people really appreciate, what it means to be a leader. It's hard. You got to take the lumps, and you got to put the team first. And so I'm really excited with the fact that he overcame adversity. And so all you haters out there, keep watching, because this is what I always say. You're going to keep your eyes on him regardless. And him being in a big market, this is one of the reasons why I feel like he's going to get this Rookie of the Year award, because it's not about only how you play, but it's also where you play. And the fact that his games is going to be more televised with him being on LA. So it really is going to give him an advantage. But I can't wait to see him against, some of the other rookies and point guards, the Ben Simmons, Markelle Fultz, a lot of the other rookies. I can't wait to see what he does against them. So now I'm going to get into my flop so hard award. Okay. Now this is a part of the podcast where I pick out a particular player or team. And you know what? Today, we have a first on this podcast because we have a tie. I'm giving this award out to, drum roll please,
you suck!
OKC, as well as the Cleveland Cavaliers. Okay, so I'm gonna start with OKC, and I'm gonna start with Carmelo Anthony. See, here's my problem with this. When Carmelo Anthony was traded to OKC, I'm sorry, not OKC, OK3, right? You got Russell Westbrook, Paul George, and Carmelo Anthony. And on paper, everybody were like, man, this is a top 2 team in the West, easily. I wanted to see what was Carmelo Anthony's mentality going to be once he got traded there. And I'll never forget, he had the press conference. This was media day. And I remember one of the reporters asked him about, hey, are you going to change your game? How you going to try to fit in the system? And he said, man, he laughed and he said, man, I'm a scorer. I don't plan on changing anything. I felt like this team had a hole in that position, and I'm the kind of guy who's going to provide scoring. And right then and there, I said, oh, yeah, this ain't going to be good. Oh, no. Here is why. Carmelo Anthony is known as the black hole. Okay. Mr. Ball Stopper himself. Prolific scorer, but that's about it. And people kept talking about this is going to be the Olympic Melo. You know how long ago that was? Oh, my God. And you know who else was on that team with Olympic Melo? Kobe Bryant. You had a LeBron James. You had guys who really took a lot of the pressure off of him. And so he was able to really just do what he does. Well, Carmelo Anthony doesn't play defense. He doesn't really care about setting other guys up. He doesn't really play well off the ball, especially at this advanced age. And, this Hoodie Melo character, hey, look, people gravitating to it. He looks to be in the best shape I've ever seen him in. I always felt like Carmelo Anthony came into the season out of shape. So I think a lot of the hoodie thing was so he can just kind of sweat and lose some weight. I think as you get older, you definitely want to come down in weight because it's important because it's on your joints. And I'm not even talking about athletes. I just mean people in general. You don't want to be getting older and carrying on a lot of weight. I remember a doctor told me a long time ago, he said, as you get older, very few things get better. Okay, so obviously he's running with that persona. But, these guys, I look at this system. I look at the coaching in OKC and I say, this coach is not the right coach for this team. You have egos on this team. You have stars on this team. You need to be able to control them. And they're not controlling Russell Westbrook. They let him do whatever he wants. They gave him this crazy deal. He's their guy. But I don't see this ending up well. You know, it's almost like they run a system of you shoot, then I shoot. You know, let's just take turns. I looked at between the three of them, Russell Westbrook, Paul George, and Carmelo Anthony, they accounted for over 56 shot attempts, okay, between the three of them. And the rest of the team was added together is maybe 20. You know, it's not good. You know, you want to get other guys involved. There's going to be a time where, yes, you want to take over the game, but you have to be able to move the ball. And Russell Westbrook had a terrible game, 6 points. A lot of it had to do with the way Utah was defending them. And mind you, this wasn't a great team, you know, that beat OKC. So what are they going to do against the more defensively sound teams like San Antonio, Golden State? You know, that's going to be the problem. You know, they're going to go into games trying to outscore you. And yes, they may have the firepower. But again, defensive teams are going to have a field day playing these guys because they're not a relatively great three-point shooting team. Russell Westbrook has to, you know, drive in order to kick out. That's how he gets a majority of his assists in transition. So he's not your prototypical point guard, but he is the type of player who you can pull him in to your defense and get him out of the game. Like, you want Russell Westbrook taking 20, 30 shots, okay? And everybody else, because that's going to get everybody else out of the game, and he's not going to beat you playing that way. So I'm going to move on to the Cavaliers, okay? They lost, which I consider to be a blowout, to Orlando Magic. I can't tell you the starting five of Orlando at all. They don't have any superstars. Obviously, that's a game that Cleveland's supposed to win. Cleveland is expected, and they're still expected, to run through the East. But you can't lose in that way. Listen, I'm gonna be real with you guys. And a lot of people not going to like this. I get into a lot of arguments with people. LeBron James is getting old. He's in his 15th season. The league is doing a lot to infatuate every single stat to try to keep him up. But I watch him play, man, and I'm just like, there's not much left. It's just not. If anything, right now, his game it's really dwindled down to, I'm going to do a lot of pushing off. He has this move that he does where he's running at you full speed and he does this spin with the shoulders high. And right now it's pretty unstoppable because, number one, nobody's calling offensive fouls. And because of his size, he's able to really be around the basket and score. I don't know if he's going to be able to keep that up all season. I noticed that's something that he does in the postseason a lot because I don't think he's really all too confident in his shot. His shots just seem, although it's improved, his outside shots just, it could get really flat, you know, and he's not a great free throw shooter. And listen, I'm saying things that people don't want to hear. LeBron James is a physical freak. He is a once in a generation type of player because of, you know, his physicality. When you think of guys like Shaquille O'Neal, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, these were unstoppable forces. They didn't have a wide, well, let me not say they, because Kareem was pretty good. But when you think of, for example, Shaquille O'Neal, he was a guy who wasn't really, he wasn't great at the free throw line. but he was a guy who you just couldn't stop him because of his size. He was just bigger than everyone. I remember growing up watching him play in Orlando and in LA. And it was almost like once he got that ball, I mean, forget it. In the post, you were like what he like to call barbecue chicken. Listen, there's a reason why they call Hack a Shack, for a reason. Because that you had to do that. Referees didn't know how to referee a guy like Shaquille O'Neal. So LeBron James get a similar treatment. I'm gonna talk about if you listen. I'm gonna talk about GQ for a second. Let me take a moment here. GQ magazine is a magazine that I like to look at every now and then. I encourage all men to pick up GQ every now and then. It really helps you with your style. But this recent issue of November, they have LeBron James on the cover, and they have him as the greatest athlete, of this generation or ever in the eyes of most people. Here's my problem with that. Now they're talking about sports, so they're not just talking about basketball, okay? I believe that someone who should have been on that cover is Floyd Mayweather Jr. Okay? Listen, I understand that a lot of people don't like Floyd because of his antics. He has a very boisterous personality. There are a lot of people who don't like him because of the domestic violence background that he has. Okay? But listen, when it comes to athlete, this is a no-brainer. This guy dominated his sport for over a decade. He's undefeated. Boxing is a one-on-one battle. Okay, LeBron has had some of the best teams. He had the best teams in Miami. He had the best teams in Cleveland. Okay, he's had mental lapses in games. Okay, no way. There's no way. There's no way you can have 5 NBA final losses, about to be 6, and be considered the best athlete of the generation. That award should have gone to Floyd Mayweather Jr., but I understand LeBron James has a relationship with GQ. He's been on several covers in the past. Again, this is just a way to keep him relevant. But that award should have gone to Floyd Mayweather Jr. This guy has not only been the highest paid athlete in sports, but this guy has no type of endorsements. He's just starting to pick up endorsements, but he has no major endorsements backing him. He doesn't have the Nike machine. He doesn't have the Apple machine behind him, pushing him. This is a guy who's been self-made. He created the persona of Money Mayweather, and the minute he switched from Pretty Boy Floyd to Money Mayweather, there were people who were willing to pay to see him fail, and he recognized that, and he kept up this character, and he made a hell of a lot of money, grossed over $700 million. This guy is a billionaire. I don't care what nobody has to say. Okay, he is a businessman. Floyd Mayweather Jr. should have been on the cover of that magazine. But I digress. We're going to move forward. Okay. Now, the Ball So Hard Award. Who does it go to? Drum roll, please. Giannis Antetokounmpo. Okay, aka the Greek Freak. Okay, listen. I got this guy winning MVP this season. Again, hopefully if they don't decide to give it to LeBron James. I already spoke on that on my last podcast. But let's talk about Giannis. He had a big game last night. Okay, 44 points against Portland. Okay. But I'm not gonna get into that. It's not just about the stats. I mean, so far, in these first couple games, he's been dominating. But I want to talk about him and why I feel like this is a great storyline that the NBA should be really pushing and getting behind of. Now, I did some research on him. So, Greek Freak plays for the Milwaukee Bucks. He's 6'11", 225. So right then and there, physical freak, okay? He's 22 years old. Now, the Greek Freak, his parents, now he's Nigerian. His parents picked up and moved to Greece when he was 18 years old. His first 18 years of his life, okay, his family being immigrants, they had no papers. This guy, in order for him to help his family, help his father, he basically was out there just selling jewelry, sunglasses. we know the stigma that we have with Nigerians. They're always trying to sell you something, right? And this is not to offend Nigerians. Believe me, I'm Haitian. They say Haitians do voodoo, and every culture has, that stigma and that thing that people like to joke about, which is not necessarily true. So that's all cultures. And so it's safe to say he grew up a not so privileged lifestyle. Okay. He had to learn the hard way about being a man. And what I like about him is that this is not your classic silver spoon story. You have a lot of people who have it hard, and they don't understand that this is part of your journey. Okay. So I did some digging in his background. His family went to Greece, and he started to play basketball there at 18. And he got into the league there in Greece. And he was eventually ended up drafted by the Milwaukee Bucks, number 15, okay, in the first round. Now, I'm going to sidetrack a little bit here because I see a trend that's going to start picking up. A lot of these players now coming from overseas are really starting to shine in the NBA because overseas, they really teach them the game of basketball, because everyone there may not be as physically gifted as the people in the States, but the people in the States, because of this one and done, and everyone being so young, 18, 19 years old coming into the league, that they haven't really had it hard. And so being overseas, they really teach them the game of basketball. Now, the thing with Giannis is he's able to combine the skill set with his physical gifts. And so he's not a overnight celebrity here. He's actually approaching his 4th season. And when you look at his previous 3 seasons, he's improved. But this is a guy who, came into the league averaging 9 points a game, or maybe 4 rebounds. He had to get better. And that's what I like about this, is that every year he improved. And now he's starting to get his shine. And he accepted the challenge from Kobe Bryant, who over Twitter issued a challenge to him for MVP. I think a lot of people recognized him last year in the All-Star game. He really kind of stuck out. And now he's really starting to dominate. And I'm gonna to go back to LeVar Ball, because LaMelo Ball, he said he's gonna take him overseas and he's gonna do home education, which I have nothing against. I'll be the first to tell you that the education system nowadays isn't really that good. The kids in high school and college, I mean, listen, it's all about getting girls and who dressed the flyest, who has the most Instagram followers and Twitter followers. LaMelo Ball being in college, he could possibly get into a whole lot of trouble. His father knows him best and probably knows that it's better that I keep an eye on him. So I think it's a great idea for him to homeschool him. But also the fact that he has this brand and he has his own sneaker, I think, obviously we know the NCAA likes to make money off of these kids. And so, which I think is just egregious. And so obviously they're going to have issues with him having his own brand and making his own money. So I think his father really got ahead of it and said, you know what? I'm going to have him going overseas. He's going to learn the game of basketball and then he'll just, sign up for the draft. And of course he's going to be drafted because everybody knows who he is already. And so going back to Giannis, him coming into the league, he really worked his way up. And I think this is a tremendous story. Now, here's some of his accolades. He's the first player ever last season to finish a regular season top 20 in all major statistics. That's points, rebounds, assists, block shots. Okay. I mean, that's just tremendous, man. This guy is definitely on his way to just really revolutionizing his position. And I'm excited to see him play, for real. Obviously, the East is wide open. And so for him to be able to shine and get his team, especially with what happened with Boston, listen, he could be in the top 2. Milwaukee could be in the top 2. It could really happen. And so I'm really excited to see what he does. So everybody, keep an eye out for Giannis Antetokounmpo, the Greek freak. Hold on, I'm missing something here. Hold on. And let me see. Assists, points, block shots. Yep. And he averaged 22 points a game. Yeah, he's killing it. He is killing it. So, guys, I'm going to go now. Thank you for listening to the podcast. Guys, look, I got plenty more on the way. The podcast can be found on iTunes, Google Play, as well as Podbean. And I'm going to leave you guys with this. If you're a fan of sports, please stay tuned and subscribe. Catch you on the next podcast. And remember, until then, believe nothing you hear and half of what you see. Peace and love, y'all. Y'all be great.